Hello, we're here today with Ivan Turgenev, writer of the novel Fathers and Sons, and who is individually responsible for the popularization of the phrase nihilism. Also here with us today, we have representatives of the nihilism movement to comment on Turgenev's viewpoint of nihilism and why it spoke to them. First, though, we'll hear from Turgenev. Ivan grew up in a not-so-small town of Oryol, Russia, where he decided he wanted to be a writer and share his views with the masses. Today, we're going to have him discuss his novel, Fathers and Sons, his thoughts on what nihilism is, and how it is interpreted during the Russian nihilism movement of the 1860s.
When writing my novel, I wanted to show the growing divide between age groups and the political views of the time period. The younger characters in the novel take a new nihilistic view on life while struggling with the elder characters of the novel's traditional views. In Fathers and Sons, the story focuses on Arkady Kirsanov and his close friend Bazarov returning to his father's estate after graduating from the university. Upon returning home, they have adopted a nihilistic viewpoint while Kirsanov's father holds to a traditional liberal democratic viewpoint and struggles with his son's newfound views. I paint a picture of nihilism as the idea that nothing is for sure and nothing can be counted on with absolute certainty. In my novel, however, nihilism does not account for the emotions of the individual.
And how did that come to play in your novel?
One of the main characters, Bazarov, struggles to keep his nihilistic viewpoints on life while also struggling with his feelings for Odin Stovo, one of the female leads. This really brings out the flaws in the nihilistic philosophy.
Interesting. Now that we've gotten a general understanding of your novel and your thoughts on nihilism, tell us about what you think about the nihilism movement of the 1860s in Russia.
Well, I don't exactly think the movement was really focused on true nihilism. The rallies of the movement really focused on anarchy and not nihilism. While I do agree with the rejection of some authority as it is irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, the nihilism movement focused more on the rejection of authorities for reform purposes.
Very interesting. Now let's go to our representatives of the nihilism movement who wish to remain anonymous. What do you think of Turgenev's defines nihilism? Yeah. Very interesting. Now let's go to our representatives of the nihilism movement who wish to remain anonymous. What do you think about how Turgenev defines nihilism, and what about it spoke to you, even that you joined a nationwide movement against the government?
Well, I personally felt that the idea of nothing being predetermined is very empowering, especially in the time of tyranny under Alexander II.
Yeah, down with the government. See them up.
No, this isn't nihilism. This is pure anarchy. How can you call yourselves nihilists? Rallying behind this cause goes against my intentions of nihilism. You should be rejecting authority because it doesn't matter, not just because you don't agree with it. This whole movement is being mislabeled. Nihilism isn't the use of violence to reject authority, it's the rejection of irrelevant beliefs that everything is determined.
Well, how else could we demand reform? The guise of nihilism is much easier than demanding absolute anarchy.
Well, it seems like things are getting a little heated here. Maybe we should cut to give these two guys some cooling off time. Yeah, it's very mature. It's very mature.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Nihilistic Game Show on the Nihilistic TV network. Today we have two contestants, Fred and Nick. Guys, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Regis. Well, I was raised in a small town, had a family of little wealth. My mother passed away about a year ago, but I'm still trying to keep positive. I try to tell myself I still have to strive for becoming someone in life and trying to change the world for better. That is what would make me the happiest.
Well, as for me, I grew up in a rather wealthy family and always strived to have good academic records and tried to help people all the time. There's nothing I would rather do than help as many people as I can, and I'm prepared for that, have a lot of knowledge.
Well, you two seem like outstanding gentlemen, but did you know that none of that matters at all? Because this is the Nihilistic Game Show. And here on the Nihilistic Game Show, it's all about nothing. Are we ready to play Who Knows More About Nothing? Alright then. Today's first category is types of nihilism. The objective of this game is to pick the answer from the word bank to see who scores most points at the end, alright? Moving on to the first question. First question. Which form of nihilism rejects only some aspects of life and mainly focuses on trying to justify its happenings? Neither of those were correct, and neither one of them were actually even from the word bank there. So neither of you get a point, but since it doesn't even matter, since this is a nihilistic game show, we're both going to give you guys a point. Fred gets one, Nick gets one. Moving on to question 2. Political nihilism suggests that since the government can theoretically do anything they want, it should A. be in total control, B. have a small role, C. not exist, or D. who cares?
Oh, I don't have enough room to even write this one.
Well, Fred, I like your enthusiasm, but B is the correct answer. Small rule. So, Nick gets a point. Good job, Nick. Moving on to question number 3. Which form of nihilism states that actions made by an individual never matter and that death is merely decay, nothing else? Fred, this calls out to you because here, where everything is nihilistic, the loss of your mother means nothing.
Yeah, I'm still mourning loss, so thanks for bringing that up again, Bob. It really hurts.
Right at you. Moving on to question number 4. What is extremely skeptical form of nihilism that denies all knowledge? Nick, this means that all that hard work in school was for nothing.
Right on, Regis.
Well, once again, neither one of you are correct, actually. The answer is epistemological. On to question number 5. Fred, this one's back to you, showing just how much change you will bring to this world. This one is a quote. Nothing humanity does can ever affect the universe as we see it. In other words, life is meaningless and holds no value. Which form of nihilism is this view?
I have more than one answer on that. I don't like. What are you going with here? Is it political, moral, or is that a B?
Yes.
Which one are you choosing?
Yes.
Neither of those are correct answers, actually, and we're going to be moving on to the next question. Moving on to question number 6. This form of nihilism states that no action is any better or worse than any other action because the concept of good and bad is fabricated by humanity, essentially stating that no matter how many people you help, Nick, you will be no better of a person who hurts puppies and babies. Well, it actually looks like we got a correct answer this time around. Nick, you got moral. Yes. All right, moving on to question number 7, our final question. Which form states that nothing but building parts exist? For example, if you have all the components to make a rocket ship and you assemble it, you still have all the parts assembled as a rocket ship, but the rocket ship itself does not exist. It does not exist because it is a whole made up of parts, and without those parts, it would not exist. So therefore, it is a conjunction of parts, but not a rocket ship. And since we all are made up of atoms, we don't exist. The answer was compositional. Neither one of you got that right yet. Well, it looks like we have a stunning remark with a total of a lot and -1. Fred, looks like you're our winner.
Yeah.
So for the prize, you get a brand new mom. Except no, your mom's still dead.
Thanks for hitting home there again, Reach.
And again, nothing really matters.
Thanks, Bob.
The term nihilism came from Friedrich Heinrich Jacobi, who lived from 1743 to 1819. Essentially, he believed that if you looked at everything logically, it would all be disproven. He said that it was the final form of rationalism, which is philosophy being used as criticism. He mentioned nihilism for the first time while speaking of Immanuel Kant's critical philosophy, which was a reductio ad absurdum, or to prove something is false. Nihilism was not popularized until Ivan Turgenev wrote his most famous novel, Fathers and Sons, in 1862, where the main character, Eugene Bazarov, was a nihilist. Sadly, the book was heavily criticized and was not taken seriously, which forced Turgenev to leave Russia and write less. A Russian political group known as the Nihilistic movement in the 1860s rejected all authority and was inspired by the character of the book. The group became very violent and succeeded in the assassination of the Russian Tsar Alexander II in 1881. This labeled them as a violent, terroristic group, which forced the group to basically become abandoned. Nihilism was unheard of until the 20th century, when a group known as the American Nihilistic Underground Society, or ANUS, was created. They have since expanded themselves to several different countries, such as Australia, where the organization is called the Australian Nihilistic Underground Society, which is also called ANUS. These are the nihilists of today. Now you see why it is not that popular.
For this segment, we have a discussion between two sides. Here we have Albert Camus. Albert believes that nihilism is the most disturbing problem with the 20th century. Why don't you tell us about your opinion?
All right, I would first like to clarify to the audience where my position stands. Most people mistake me as an existentialist, but I am not. I will tell you why. Existentialism is where an individual can feel meaningless due to their small scale when compared to a whole society. I developed the idea of burdenism, which is stating that one's feeling of meaningless is that of a completely different reason. See, in absurdism, the universe is so full of unanswered questions and unknown knowledge. We as humans are also limited to what knowledge we can discover as far as grand scale goes. These two things combined make it impossible for us to find meaning or value with our lives.
So you were saying that you are not only not an existentialist, but in the end, you believe in the same thing as they?
As an absurdist, I believe the reason for something to be completely different from existentialists.
Oh, I see. What do you have to say about nihilism?
As you said before, I do believe that nihilism is a major problem within our global society. You have people who believe in nihilism, but then you have people inspired by nihilism act upon it. But how can you act upon something without a reason? I wrote about this very situation in one of my books. I happen to have brought it with me today.
Yes, and what is that?
This is an essay I wrote entitled The Rebel, and I dive into how rebels and anarchists are blind in their causes. Here it is. As you can see, it's entitled The Rebel.
That's a rather large essay there.
Yes, it is one of my most famous works. Here I basically write about how they fight for nothing, but in actuality they are fighting for the cause of the rebellion or the presence of anarchy, not to mention their very own lives. So how can one who is fighting for nothing fight at all? They are fighting for something, and thus there is a cause, a false one.
One could mention the Russian Nihilist movement or even the American Underground Nihilist Society with the appropriate acronym ANUS.
What, anus? Are you serious?
Yes, they even have their own website, www.anus.com.
I can't tell if you're joking or not here.
I wish I was.
But yes, getting back to the discussion, I actually did mention this Russian terrorist-like group and how they were fighting for reasons they were fighting against.
Well, we have two men to join us here today, and they are from these groups, one from the Russian Nihilistic movement and the other from ANUS.
Pleasure to be on your show.
So, we have here two guys who are representing their groups. They do not want their true identities revealed, so we have given them aliases for the matter of the show. From the Russian Nihilistic movement, we have Nikolai. So we have two guys here who are representing their groups. They do not want their true identities revealed, so we have given them aliases for the matter of this show. From the Russian Nihilist movement, we have Nikolai. And we have the man from ANUS, Jacob. So, Nikolai, tell me about the Russian Nihilist movement.
Well, we started in 1860. Usually our methods would include violence and assassinations.
And I'm guessing you want your identity to remain a secret since you were associated with this group?
Yes, that is correct.
And Jacob, I can tell why you want your identity to remain concealed, considering the organization is called ANUS.
The Time Czar of Russia, Alexander II, and the Eastern Orthodox Church abused their power. There was this movement called the Narodnik movement, where they took the lower class citizens and paid them just enough to survive. This was called wage slavery. The social structure went from having an upper, middle, and a lower class to slaves and slave owners. We did not believe in this, but any form of authority or social structure, so we were revolted.
Your group states that you are nihilist, so you believe in no cause, but doesn't anarchy, even though it is absent presence of authority or social structure, still remain a cause? You also seem to have been fighting to rebel against a government and church rather than attempting to eliminate.
We believe that there must not be a government in place at all, and sought to eliminate it. This is why we do not have a leader. We fought for that. The incident that the government was conducting cruel ordinances was coincidence. We were not fighting for that.
Interesting how the organization did not exist until the already existing government began acting this way.
That is a good question one must consider.
Nonetheless, we were successful in our cause. Tsar Alexander II was assassinated in 1881.
He just happened to be assassinated on the day that he was traveling to an assembly to consider reforming the government to be a better one. Even though you hit the target, you missed the mark on that one, didn't you?
It does not matter. We eliminated the leader of the government we were trying to dissolve.
Except after that happened, the group was labeled as violent extremists and basically abandoned.
I have not abandoned the cause and never will. The Russian nihilist movement will rise again someday.
Yes, from your mother's basement, Nikolai.
Well, that's enough about Nikolai and your movement. Jacob, why don't you tell us a little about the ANUS? Well, that's all we have for you tonight. Remember to tune in every night for your favorite Nihilist talk show.